Hello, Euro Squad, and welcome back to part 2 of It's Not the Truth That Matters, but Victory. When we left off before, we saw Adolf Hitler joining the Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiter Party, and we saw his true talent, which is for public speaking. If there's one talent that's going to enable Adolf Hitler to come to power, it is his ability to persuade people with his voice. So his speaking abilities are going to enable him to rise up in the Nazi Party, and he has an uncanny ability to tap into that raw human emotion in the way that only a demagogue could, to appeal to people's interests and motivate them to think that he has the answers to all of their problems. That is something that people are looking for at this time because the government and Germany itself are so tremendously weak from the very beginning, because of the fact that the Weimar Republic, they're the ones that signed the Treaty of Versailles. Many attempted coups had happened in this post-war period, as we talked about, for instance, with not only the Spartacus uprising and various groups of Freikorps, but we'll see the same thing happening with the Nazis and what they called their Beer Hall Putsch. Now, the Beer Hall Putsch is going to happen, or the Beer Hall takeover. A Putsch is a coup. Their attempted coup is going to happen right in the midst of the worst period of inflation, when it was 3.25 billion%, and when the reparations debt just seemed insurmountable to the German government. So right during this same time period, as Hitler and the Nazis are trying to stage an attempted coup of the government, we'll also see France occupying the Ruhr Valley because Germany was unable to make their war payments. And so France and Belgium are going to basically be invading Germany, right on the edges of Germany, right as the Spartacus uprising is happening with the Bolsheviks, at the same time that people are unable to feed themselves and clothe themselves because of inflation. And then you've got Hitler and the Nazis on top of it trying to overthrow the government. Now, their plan was simple. Their plan was to go all the way from the beer halls of Munich. They were going to take over, after having this big party rally, they're going to take over the beer halls of Munich. Then they're going to march with their people and their followers to the government of Munich, take that hostage, and then march all the way to Berlin and overthrow the government, which is a trip of only like 900 miles. So obviously this thing is going to work. Well, where's Hitler getting this idea? He's getting the idea from Mussolini's success, who staged a propagandistic coup in the overthrow in Rome. Now remember, that wasn't a real march on Rome necessarily. It wasn't a military takeover. Mussolini had already been elected into his governmental position. So Hitler, by contrast, has not yet been elected into any governmental position. Let's see if this beer hall putsch is going to work out for him.
For many years, my friends, I was like a prisoner, blindfolded, fending off blows from every direction. What had I done to deserve this treatment? I did not even know who my enemy was. An innocent victim of greed, and of hatred, and of cunning. In recent years, we have all suffered like this. Germany, more than any of us. Yet there is no need to live in darkness. The turning point in my life was when the blindfold was ripped from my eyes. And I could see my enemy, our enemy, the Jew. We recognize him. We recognize him.
Nobody leaves. No one.
We see how his filth and his greed have stung at the heart of this great country. We must crush this vermin. We must wipe this plague from our nation. What we say tonight will soon be forgotten. What we do will live on for 1,000 years.
What's the matter? Losses said we have to wait 2 more weeks before they take action.
Seisser was in Berlin. Some important meeting. Carr wouldn't see me. But in 2 days, he intends to address all the right-wing political factions at one of their beer halls. All of them. That is, except you. He's outfoxed you, lad. He clearly intends to form a coalition with all of your competitors and create a new government without you. He brought you into this simply to keep you quiet.
We'll move without them, then. We'll seize Munich. We'll march on Berlin. The people are with us. Listen to them. Gentlemen, our time has come.
I'll confront Carr here. Röhm and his men wait here. We surround the barracks, then attack. Once the situation is secure, I'll telephone Röhm here at the beer hall.
Half of my men will cut the lines at the telephone exchange. The rest of us will secure the military barracks.
No information, in or out of Munich, unless I say so.
Gentlemen, I know this is often said and deeply felt, but none more deeply than tonight. May God and the people of Germany be with us.
Brothers, you and I, together, we will make history.
Your papers, please.
Couldn't sleep last night worrying about this speech. His popularity's rising. If people don't hear the truth...
Don't worry, they will. Tonight we unify the other parties and put an end to Adolf Hitler.
The National Revolution has begun. The building is surrounded. No one may leave. Any trouble, you will be shot. Inside. Inside! Stay calm. Remain in your places. We have the building surrounded.
Get me a Ludendorff.
Sorry to surprise you like this, but then you're no stranger to intrigue, are you? I'm forming a provisional Reich government. I will be in charge of the police. General Ludendorff will be in charge of the army. And I will have a post for each of you. I need your support.
You seem to have planned this well. Then where is General Ludendorff? If he supports you as you say he does, why is he not here?
Oh, so the little man pulled it off, did he? Give me a moment.
Keep your heads!
He's a little late.
What's going on? You sure he's coming at all?
Shut up! Seats, remain calm!
He's here.
You all leaders are with us! Will you join them? Will you stand behind us? The German Revolution begins tonight!
Yes. Good.
There's an armed group heading towards the barracks.
You mean they fell back? Can't believe this is happening. Nobody does anything right. Where's your conscience? Conscience. A Jewish invention, sir. Conscience.
Do you mind if we visit our wives, General? They'll be worried.
Of course, of course. Mustn't worry, the poor women.
Mobilize the army. Now!
What the hell's happening?
There are too many of them. Somebody must have betrayed us.
What are you doing here? Where's Carr and the others?
Oh, I let them go. Their wives were a concern. Well, that's all right. They gave me their word they would notify the authorities.
Good God! Follow me!
Let's go.
We'll take to the streets! We'll take to the streets! We'll go to the war ministry. There were 8,000 people at the Circus Krone the other night. As soon as they know what's happening, they will support us!
As you saw from that video there, the Nazis were very much dependent upon the government officials agreeing with this thing and saying, you've got the answers we want, let's put you in power in this hostile takeover of the government, overthrow of the Weimar Republic. That didn't work. Another thing they were highly dependent upon was Erich Ludendorff, the hero of Tannenberg, the hero of World War I for the German army, to support them in this thing. And after seeing the initial success of the Beer Hall Putsch, Ludendorff will show up and join them in this thing, and no one's going to shoot him. Many of the Nazi faithful will be shot all around Hitler. Hitler will, in some ways, be kind of wounded by this, getting knocked down, and blood will be splattered all over his jacket and all over their flag as well. And so that flag will become a sacred symbol to the Nazis after this, a little thing called the Blutfahne, which is the blood flag, because of the blood of the martyrs of Nazism that died in the Beer Hall Putsch. Now, the whole thing was a failure, though. Other than the propaganda appeal, the whole thing was a failure. Erich Ludendorff is going to basically get a slap on the wrist saying, how dare you, don't do that again, but at the same time, not a traitor to the government, because, man, things are rough right now, and we, the Germans, need heroes like Ludendorff to help us out of it. Meanwhile, Hitler, I mean, really, he should have been put on trial for treason as well, but he'll use his trial as a soapbox, a propaganda appeal, to be able to get people's attention for the Nazi cause. And he'll be condemned to an 11-month sentence in a very minimum security prison. While in prison, he calls this his time period of a college education at state expense, because he's hanging out in this prison studying history, studying nationalism, hyper-nationalism, studying pan-Germanism, studying anti-Semitism, and then, of course, dictating his rambling, atrociously awful book that will change the world. And that book is called Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf is my struggle for Hitler. And so in this book, he's going to basically outline everything he plans to do. So for people to have said, we didn't know what Hitler was planning, we didn't know that Hitler wanted to do these things with the Holocaust or the takeover of the government or, you know, the war against Russia or the West for that matter, we didn't know he was going to do this. And that's false, because Mein Kampf was a hot seller in the 1920s and will be a hot seller again in the 1930s when the Great Depression happens. It'll be translated into multiple language. It'll be a hot seller in Europe, in America as well. This is like the Nazi Bible, and it was given out as a wedding present to anybody that was married after Hitler and the Nazis take over in the government, given out as a wedding present to every new couple that's married in Germany. So the fact of people or the myth of people saying that they didn't know is false, because it's all there in his book. Now, whether or not they read it because it's hot trash, you know, that's more debatable. But in his book, he talks about things like Lebensraum. Lebensraum meaning the living space or living room that is out there in the East. And you can see his idealistic pursuit of Lebensraum right here, exemplified by the map. This is a area of Germany called East Germany or East Prussia that has been divided because of the creation of Poland. And so Hitler and the Nazis are saying, we want this back. We want this territory. This area is land that used to be Germany, and we want that back. And we're also going to take over all of this area as well. And then the plan is to go into the Soviet Union after that because of a little thing that the Americans would call manifest destiny, whereas Hitler and the Nazis and the ultranationalists call it living room or living space, Lebensraum. And then not to mention the fact that they also want these territories down here, which are German-speaking, German cultural areas of Austria and Czechoslovakia. They also want the area of Alsace and Lorraine back as well, and other chunks throughout Europe. Now, Hitler is saying that he and the Nazis need this room to grow. Germany needs this room to grow because, according to Hitler, the population of Germany will double over the next 50 years. Now, ironically, he's not far off in that estimate, and there were actually posters for school children exemplifying the fact that France's population and Britain's population is not going through a boom the way that Germany's population is. And of course, what they're arguing to the school children of Germany is that the right children need to be born, the Aryan and Volk racially pure German children are the ones we want, but those are the ones that are going to double, and so therefore they need room to grow. And of course, he also has all of his racial theory in there as well, about of what he sees as the dangers of Judaism. Achtung Juda means danger, Jew. All right, so also we see here the Jew, and from the Jew, according to Hitler and the Nazis, they get warmongers and war extenders, is what that poster says. So Hitler outlines all of his plans in his book, and his methods are made quite clear early on as well. Now, most of these methods will not be as visible until we get especially toward his rise to power in the 1930s, but even in the 20s, you can see the Nazi Party and the Nazi faithful growing in numbers, at least during the crisis period leading up to the Beer Hall Putsch, and then again after the Great Depression gets started in 1931 in Germany. Some of the ways in which they're doing these things, first of all, they have the SA, or the stormtroopers. These guys are taking their stormtrooper name, or the Sturmabteilung name, from the Stoßtruppen of World War I. These guys are, some of them former World War I veterans, but honestly, the SA is kind of a disorganized mass of thugs, and by the time we get to 1934, they will be 4 million men strong. Remember, how big is the German army allowed to be in the post-war period? 100,000. So a 4 million man group of men that are armed and ready to fight for their country of the pure, racially pure Germany. That's very much a scary thing. The guy that's leading this is Ernst Röhm at the time. He is going to be replaced because of a little thing called the Night of the Long Knives, which we will study a little bit later. But basically, Hitler is going to replace Ernst Röhm and claim he's a homosexual and then have him killed in the Night of the Long Knives. But for now, it is Ernst Röhm. Now, when we think of the SA, it's easy for us to look at the Sturmabteilung or the brown shirts as a bunch of thugs, certainly that are a bunch of rabble-rousers and are terrifying people into submission. And while that is true to some extent, there's not a lot of resistance to the Nazis in Hitler's initial rise to power, especially by the time we get into 33 and 34, when he has become chancellor. There's not a lot of resistance to the Nazis initially. In later, people will certainly fear for their lives. But right now, as you can see from this picture, which again is largely propagandistic, but the people of Germany were many of them liked seeing these men being employed, having a purpose, putting Germany back on the move. I mean, our negative connotation for Nazis is totally justified, but it's not something that the Germans of the time period would have felt as much. So another group within Germany that Hitler was going to use here is the Schutzstaffel. These guys are the elite guardsmen, and they are devoted completely to Hitler. And the Schutzstaffel are men that are specially chosen to be these elite squads, but also they had a uniform that was personally designed by Hitler. His artistic flair is going to come out as he designs their uniforms to intentionally make them look super sexy. And the only men that can wear these super sexy uniforms are Aryan men. They have to be racially the Aryan blood men. And the reason that Hitler wanted his men to look good and be Aryan was because he wanted them to propagate the race. All right, it was mandatory that Schutzstaffel men would take on lovers or be married to an Aryan woman. They were only allowed by law to have sex with Aryan women, and the goal was to impregnate as many women as possible. Those women would become known as brides of the Fuhrer if they were not married. If they were married, all the better. Have 10 kids is what he was saying. Because what they want to do is through eugenic policies, build the Aryan race. It's disgusting and despicable. And the disgusting, despicable man who's in charge of this group is Heinrich Himmler. Heinrich Himmler, before World War I, was a chicken farmer and just really a nobody. But after World War I, he joins the Nazi Party as one of their initial members and becomes like one of the heads of this group, and he's just a nasty, nasty man. He was into what you'd call S&M, or sadomasochism, and he enjoyed seeing torture. I mean, he's like a torture porn kind of guy. He likes seeing people hurt. And in fact, later when the Holocaust is going on and the Einsatzgruppen, or the special killing squads, are killing tens of thousands of Jews per day in Russia, he will insist upon having a front row seat to watch this whole thing happen. And he's also going to have a peephole at Auschwitz so he can look in the windows to see into the gas chambers. This man is a despicable, disgusting human being who I'm confident is burning in hell right now. All right. Another man that is in charge of an elite group in Germany under the Nazis is named Hermann Goering. Hermann Goering is going to be the head of the Gestapo. The Gestapo is an acronym for Geheime Staatspolizei. Gestapo. Geheime Staatspolizei acronym. So these are the secret state police of Germany, and Hermann Goering was a World War I fighter ace, and so he was right behind the Red Baron as being like their number one pilot, and so he was really into like the heroism of that. After coming to power with the Nazis, he's going to he has this really interesting personality where he loves medieval culture. He wants to be viewed as like a medieval baron, basically. He built this home called Karen House, and it's named after his wife Karen, who died before the Nazis came to power. So he builds this giant mansion, and he's going to, during the war, fill that mansion with priceless pieces of art. He had something like 500 or 600 pieces of art that he stole from all around Europe, whether it's like a Van Gogh or some Renaissance art that he had stolen. And in order to be on his good side, you had to give him gifts, really extravagant gifts. And so people would steal art from the Louvre or the Tuileries in Paris during the war and then send those to Goering, and he would just put them in a random bedroom at Karen House. He also would have these weird things where he would have medieval drinking parties at his home, and he would wear like a Robin Hood costume. He looked like a fat Robin Hood, and he would put on like face makeup and bedazzled earrings, and he would personally design uniforms for the military that had all these frilly things to them to make him look extravagant. He's a real weird dude, but the people of Germany legitimately loved him. So if you read the reports of the time period, the quote went that we swear by the Fuhrer, but we worship Goering. That's what the people of Germany said about Hermann Goering. They loved his personality because it was so weird and extravagant, and it's the kind of life that they would live if only they could. Whereas Hitler was this weird, asexual, never nude who was kind of removed from normal personalities. And so in the choice between the two, we swear by the Fuhrer, but we worship Goering. And he's the man that's in charge of the Geheime Staatspolizei. Now, another thing that Hitler is going to start to do with his methodology is propaganda and mass suggestion. We've seen that being successful under both the Bolsheviks and now also under the fascists, and now the Nazis are going to use this as well. And as you can see here from this poster, it says, "Ja, leader, we follow you." And you've got this Photoshop design of all these Nazis that are giving the Sieg Heil salute, the Sieg Heil high five to Adolf Hitler, who's superimposed on top of them, and "Ja," saying, "Yes, we give ourselves to you, my leader." And again, here you can see that medieval extravagant style with Hitler wearing a suit of armor. And you might be wondering about this. That's just a hole in the picture. They wouldn't have put that in his face, actually. But here you can see him building that cult of personality as like a medieval baron that is leading us, a medieval king that is leading Germany into the right direction. And the right direction is a country that is freed from its fears of economic turmoil, rampant inflation, Bolsheviks and Jews and these people that are seen as destroying society. Those are the answers that people thought Hitler could provide. Of course, it's crazy. Of course, it's something that is that we would never want to go for again, and we've learned that lesson now. But that demagoguery that is what helped bring him to power. And so, as you can see from this poster, Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, which means one people, one empire, one leader. Which takes us back to a couple of different principles. First of all, what's called the Führen principle. The Führen principle said that the leader is the ultimate source of truth and knowledge. The leader's words are always infallible. The leader has all of the right strategies, all the right plans, has all the answers. Führen principle is a scary totalitarian ideal that the Nazis are going to build upon throughout this time period. And then another one, just to take us back to that initial quote, it's not the truth that matters, but victory. And we can see that played out once again through this video.
The swastika, or Hakenkreuz flag, carried that day by Hitler's National Socialist Party, was stained with the blood of the fallen. From this point forward, Hitler would call it the flag of martyrs, and use it to inspire a growing following of true believers. Nazis.
I feel electrified. A man by the name of Adolf Hitler has tried to restore honor to the German people. I feel with an increasing certainty that a man has arisen to lead the fatherland towards a brighter future.
It was August 2nd, 1929, and the National Socialists were filming their third-party rally, the first here in Nuremberg.
Und unser Führer ein!
100,000 Nazis attended.
Suddenly, Adolf Hitler appears. He goes to each man, shaking his hand. There are things one cannot explain, cannot describe. I never stop thinking of him. Sometimes he meets us in our dreams.
In this footage, Hitler consecrates Nazi Party flags by touching them to the Blutfahne, the blood-stained swastika of his failed revolution. The loyalists were dazzled.
People call him a fool and a dreamer and much more. But what you say is true, Adolf Hitler. It is critical to our nation's history that we introduce over 65 million people to the ideas of National Socialism. 65 million National Socialists. Wonderful, fantastic, this goal.
Most Germans still thought of Hitler as too radical, if they thought of him at all. But in less than 3 months, Wall Street would crash and take the German economy down with it. And within a year, the Nazis would be one of the largest political parties in Germany.
While we descended into misery and called anxiously for a savior, he emerged like a mountain. Columns march, drums beat, and 100,000 men stand firmly gathered around one man. Now, build up your people, O Master. A new great fatherland awaits.
So as we end our lecture today, just keep in mind that the ideas of the Führerprinzip and one Volk, or one people, one empire, one leader, are the things that helped not only bring Hitler to power, but once in power, are going to allow him to do unspeakable things, with much of Germany, sadly, supporting it. Thanks for watching.